Director, Genetic Counseling at Mapmygenome, Pooja Ramchandran in the studios. And I'm so glad to have you back, man. I think we spoke about at least a good 2 years ago.
It's been a couple years, I think. But that was a badass song. I love badass women.
Yeah.
It's awesome, like you and I.
Yeah. Well, stand-up is also something you've started off late, I hear.
That is correct.
I'm yet to come and attend one of your shows, which I will do very soon. Mm-hmm. But coming back to genetics. Sure. Yeah, let's get back to the point.
Because genetics is fun too.
Yes, it is. Well, you've made it fun for me to begin with. And I know the ones who are listening to us are also kind of intrigued by the fact that there are so many things that happen when it comes to our genome, our DNA, our gene. And one can find out about our scientific future, really.
Correct.
A future that you can trust,
Correct.
a future that you can know,
Correct.
and you can do something about.
Right.
So tell us about, let's begin with the different kinds of diseases we're looking at over here that can help an adult or a child find out about, be diagnosed, and fix it.
All right, fair enough. I think that's a reasonably good place to start. So there's some conditions, influenced by DNA that are purely genetic. So if you have a change in your DNA, then it could mean that you're either a carrier of a condition, and if two carriers have a child, then each child has a 25% chance of actually developing the disease. A good example of that is something like thalassemia. Happens to be, like we were talking about earlier, World Thalassemia Day today. And so that's a condition that can get diagnosed oftentimes, amongst children. And those are examples of, single gene conditions that you can't necessarily do anything about in terms of altering your DNA structure, but there's treatment and management that's available, which is great. Then there's these other conditions that are more common, things like heart disease, diabetes. Now, these would usually affect individuals when they're a little bit much older. Just want to make a note that I said that. Fun. But no, some of these conditions can actually affect older individuals. And then you're absolutely right. There's ways that we can scan people's DNA, look for some changes that might indicate an increased risk for developing some of these conditions. And when you have a risk from your DNA, there's ways to kind of reduce that risk based on your dietary, lifestyle modifications, and also a good screening screening plan put into place for just targeted monitoring. So genetics can affect your life, and you can benefit from it, whether you're a kid or an adult. Yeah.
Wow. So this also means that we can correct the future and change the lifestyle and bring it under our control. But when you're saying change in lifestyle, what percentage of change in lifestyle and what percentage can we then bring the disorder under control?
That's an excellent question. So I want to, and this is something that I get asked oftentimes by patients and clients as well, right? So when we look at a condition like diabetes, for example, we know that about half of it is nature, half of it is nurture. This whole nature, nurture, and this is what in the genomics world we call it DNA versus the environment.
Right.
So 50% of that risk is really from your DNA, and that's one we can identify on a test, like the Genomepatri, for example. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it. It's a test that will analyze your DNA looking for those changes. And 50% of your risk for diabetes, for example, is from your DNA. The other 50% risk is really from what you eat and whether you have an active or a sedentary lifestyle or not. So I could have a really high risk for diabetes based on my DNA, but if I'm aware of that risk, and if I spoke with a genetic counselor who helped me understand what that meant, then I could put into place, dietary modification, make sure that I have an active lifestyle, and make sure I get screening done regularly, and I could potentially never develop diabetes again.
Wow. Whoa. Mapmygenome, all of this and more happens. We're going to try and understand that when we come back on the other side of the ad break. And a few songs. It's Pooja Ramchandran, Director, Mapmygenome. Genetic counseling is what we're talking about today. That's the topic. This is Good Morning Mumbai with me, Annie.
94.